Imagine a seemingly perfect life shattered by dark secrets and deadly deceit. Kristen Rossum, once a promising chemist, descends into a chilling tale of addiction, betrayal, and murder. From her high-stakes role in forensic science to a fatal dose of fentanyl that claimed her husband's life, this true crime story unveils a web of lies, a broken marriage, and a sinister plot. As the truth unravels, the boundaries between professional duty and personal corruption blur, leading to a courtroom drama that will leave you questioning how well we really know those closest to us. Brace yourself for a journey into darkness. Welcome to our exploration of a chilling true crime case that captivated the nation, the story of Kristen Rossum. This tale is a complex tapestry of ambition, addiction, and deception, culminating in a shocking crime that reveals the dark side of the human psyche. Kristen Rossum was a promising chemistry graduate from San Diego State University, known for her academic achievements and potential in the field of science. Born in 1982, Kristen's life seemed poised for success. However, behind her academic accomplishments lurked a darker reality. Kristen, who could have pursued a distinguished career, chose a different path, one marred by addiction and deception. Her story begins with her family life. Kristen was married to Gregory DeVere, a man 7 years her senior, born in 1975. Gregory, a biotechnology worker, appeared to be a supportive partner who helped Kristen overcome a troubling addiction to methamphetamine, a powerful and addictive substance. Their relationship seemed to offer Kristen a fresh start. They married on June 5, 1999, in a grand ceremony, and Kristen's parents, Ralph and Constance Rossum, were delighted to see their daughter appear to have turned her life around. Yet, Kristen's stability was short-lived. By March 2000, she had secured a job as a toxicologist at the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office. This role involved analyzing body fluids to detect controlled substances, a position that required both expertise and discretion. At this point, Kristen's life seemed to be on an upward trajectory. However, the facade was fragile. Kristen's boredom with her monotonous life led her to seek excitement outside her marriage, finding it in an affair with her colleague, Michael Robertson, who was newly appointed as the department head. This extramarital relationship added strain to an already deteriorating marriage. Despite her attempts to maintain appearances, Gregory discovered letters exchanged between Kristen and Michael. Although Gregory hoped to salvage their marriage, Kristen was determined to end it. By November 6, 2000, Kristen and Gregory's relationship had reached a breaking point. On that fateful morning, Kristen called in sick to her husband's workplace, reporting that he was too ill to come in. She then visited him during her lunch break, finding Gregory lethargic and unusually calm. By evening, Kristen reported Gregory to emergency services, claiming he was not breathing and might have committed suicide. When police and paramedics arrived at their apartment at 10:19 p.m., they found Gregory dead on the bedroom floor. His body was surrounded by scattered rose petals, and the room was staged to look like a romantic gesture gone tragically wrong. Gregory's death was initially ruled a suicide, attributed to a lethal dose of several controlled substances, including powerful painkillers. However, skepticism about the cause of death emerged quickly. Gregory's family and friends were unconvinced by the suicide theory. They noted that Gregory had been vehemently opposed to using controlled substances, making the idea of an intentional overdose seem implausible. Their doubts led to an independent autopsy, which revealed an alarmingly high level of fentanyl, a potent opioid, along with other drugs in Gregory's system. Fentanyl is known for its strength and rapid onset, with effects far more powerful than morphine. The discovery of such high levels of fentanyl suggested that Gregory's death was not a simple overdose but rather an indication of possible foul play. The police investigation began to focus on Kristen, whose role as a toxicologist gave her access to the substances found in Gregory's body. Kristen's inconsistent statements about her husband's condition and the circumstances surrounding his death added fuel to the fire. Initially, she claimed Gregory had not taken any medication, but her story shifted when she mentioned oxycodone, a drug similar to fentanyl. Her erratic behavior and statements were scrutinized further when it was discovered that Gregory had been unconscious for several hours before his death, a fact that contradicted Kristen's account of events. As investigators delved deeper, they discovered Kristen's affair with Michael Robertson and the professional connection that could have provided both motive and opportunity for the crime. The investigation was complicated by Kristen's extensive knowledge of drugs and toxicology, which made her a prime suspect in the alleged poisoning of her husband. After Gregory DeVere's death was ruled a suicide, Kristen Rossum appeared to be grieving a tragic loss. However, Gregory's family and friends remained unconvinced by the official explanation. They noted discrepancies in Kristen's accounts and the sudden, unexplained high levels of fentanyl found in Gregory's system. Their persistent doubts led to an independent autopsy, which revealed a disturbing truth. Gregory had been poisoned with a significant amount of fentanyl, a powerful opioid. Fentanyl is known for its potency, being 80 times stronger than morphine. The presence of this drug, along with other controlled substances, suggested a carefully planned and executed poisoning rather than a spontaneous overdose. The investigation quickly zeroed in on Kristen Rossum, whose position as a toxicologist at the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office gave her both access to and knowledge about such substances. Kristen's inconsistent statements during the investigation raised suspicions. Initially, she told paramedics that Gregory had not taken any medication. Later, she changed her story, suggesting that he might have ingested oxycodone. These contradictions, coupled with her erratic behavior, led investigators to scrutinize her role more closely. The investigation revealed that Kristen had been involved in an affair with Michael Robertson, the newly appointed department head at her workplace. Robertson, who had specialized knowledge in toxicology, was another critical figure in this case. The affair added a layer of complexity, raising questions about potential motives and connections between the individuals involved. As the police pieced together the evidence, they discovered that Kristen had been seen buying a single red rose on the day of Gregory's death. This detail, combined with her testimony about the events leading up to Gregory's demise, seemed inconsistent with the condition in which Gregory was found. According to the medical examination, Gregory had been unconscious for approximately 6 to 12 hours before his death, making it unlikely that he had decorated the room with rose petals as Kristen had claimed. Further investigation revealed that Kristen's workplace had experienced a shortage of fentanyl and other controlled substances, adding to the suspicion that Kristen might have used her access to these drugs to poison Gregory. The discovery of a bruise on Gregory's arm, indicative of an injection site, and traces of drugs in Kristen's home further corroborated the theory of deliberate poisoning. The case took a significant turn when it was revealed that Kristen had been actively involved in falsifying information to cover her tracks. Her diary, initially seen as a personal record, was interpreted by investigators as an attempt to construct a narrative of Gregory's death that aligned with her innocence. The diary entries, along with her purchase of the rose and revealing lingerie, suggested a calculated effort to stage the scene of Gregory's death. The forensic evidence was compelling. The toxicological tests indicated that Gregory's death was not accidental, but resulted from the administration of fentanyl. The high levels of fentanyl, combined with other drugs, pointed to a premeditated act of poisoning. Kristen's knowledge of drugs and chemistry, gained through her education and job, provided her with the means to carry out such a crime. In January 2001, Kristen was arrested following a police raid on her home, which uncovered traces of drugs and paraphernalia. This raid marked the beginning of serious legal trouble for Kristen. She was charged with first-degree murder in June 2001, and the case went to trial soon after. The prosecution presented a case built on the evidence of Kristen's drug knowledge and access, her inconsistent statements, and the motive linked to her affair with Michael Robertson. They argued that Kristen had poisoned Gregory to cover up her ongoing drug use and the affair. The prosecution also highlighted the inconsistencies in Kristen's story and the circumstantial evidence of premeditated poisoning. Despite the defense's attempts to argue that Gregory might have self-administered the drugs, the overwhelming evidence against Kristen, including her detailed knowledge of toxic substances and her actions leading up to Gregory's death, painted a damning picture. The prosecution's theory suggested that Kristen used her expertise to poison Gregory, stage the scene to resemble a suicide, and manipulate the investigation to her advantage. As the trial progressed, Kristen's defense team struggled to refute the prosecution's claims. They admitted that fentanyl was present but argued that Gregory's death could have been an accident or due to his own actions. The defense's strategy was undermined by the robust evidence against Kristen, including the fact that fentanyl was a potent and hard-to-detect poison that matched her professional expertise. In June 2001, Kristen Rosom faced the judicial system, charged with first-degree murder for the death of her husband, Gregory DeVere. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the prosecution prepared to lay out their case against the former toxicologist. The prosecution's strategy hinged on demonstrating that Kristen had the motive, means, and opportunity to commit the crime. The prosecution began by establishing Kristen's access to the drugs that killed Gregory. They highlighted her position at the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office, where she had direct access to controlled substances, including fentanyl. The prosecution argued that Kristen used her specialized knowledge to poison her husband deliberately. Key to the prosecution's case was the evidence of Kristen's affair with Michael Robertson, her boss. Robertson's involvement was portrayed as part of the motive behind Gregory's murder. Kristen's deteriorating marriage and her desire to start anew with Robertson were presented as powerful incentives for her to commit murder. One of the crucial pieces of evidence was the toxicological report that revealed high levels of fentanyl in Gregory's system. The prosecution argued that Kristen, with her expertise in toxicology, knew exactly how to administer fentanyl without immediate detection. They also highlighted the presence of other drugs, including clonazepam, which contributed to the case that the poisoning was not accidental but intentional. Further compelling evidence included Kristen's own diary, which was scrutinized for its attempt to create a narrative that Gregory's death was a suicide. Her actions on the day of Gregory's death were also meticulously analyzed. Kristen had purchased a red rose and revealing lingerie, which the prosecution argued was inconsistent with her supposed grief and the distress of finding her husband dead. Testimonies from Gregory's family and friends underscored their disbelief in the suicide ruling. They testified that Gregory had no history of suicidal tendencies or substance abuse. Their insistence on an independent autopsy led to the discovery of the high fentanyl levels, which played a pivotal role in shifting the investigation's focus to homicide. The prosecution presented forensic experts who testified about the nature of fentanyl. Dr. Theodore Stanley explained how fentanyl, when administered in specific ways, could cause rapid respiratory arrest. His testimony reinforced the idea that the amount of fentanyl found in Gregory's body was not something he could have self-administered accidentally. Kristen's defense team faced a daunting task. Their primary argument was that Gregory might have self-administered the drugs intentionally, driven by despair over their failing marriage. They contended that the combination of oxycodone and clonazepam could create a potent effect, leading to accidental overdose. However, this argument struggled against the overwhelming evidence of premeditation. The defense also claimed that Kristen had no direct role in Gregory's death. They suggested that the fentanyl could have been administered by someone else or might have entered Gregory's system through another source. However, the prosecution's evidence, including Kristen's access to fentanyl and her actions surrounding the case, cast serious doubts on this claim. As the trial progressed, Kristen's credibility took a hit. Her inconsistent statements, including her initial denial of Gregory taking medication and later admissions, were highlighted by the prosecution. The defense's attempt to argue that Gregory's death was a result of his own actions faced challenges due to the clear evidence of poisoning. The prosecution's narrative painted a picture of a calculated crime, with Kristen using her professional knowledge and access to drugs to orchestrate Gregory's murder. The staged suicide scene, complete with rose petals and torn wedding photos, was depicted as a deliberate attempt to mislead investigators. After several weeks of intense courtroom proceedings, the jury deliberated for 8 hours before reaching a verdict. Kristen Rosom was found guilty of first-degree murder and special circumstances homicide due to the use of poison. The conviction was a significant moment, as it reflected the jury's belief in the prosecution's argument that Kristen had meticulously planned and executed the murder. In February 2003, Kristen was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The verdict marked the end of a harrowing legal battle and underscored the tragic consequences of Kristen's actions. The case did not end with Kristen's conviction. Michael Robertson, Kristen's lover and accomplice, faced legal scrutiny. Authorities issued a sealed warrant for Robertson's arrest, but he remained free, working as a forensic toxicology consultant in Australia. The case left lingering questions about his involvement and the possibility of additional charges. Gregory's family pursued legal action against the county, alleging negligence in allowing Kristen to access and steal drugs from the medical examiner's office. In 2006, they won a significant civil lawsuit, receiving $147 million in damages. The lawsuit highlighted systemic issues and the need for stricter controls within forensic institutions. Kristen Rossum's story remains a stark reminder of the complexities and dark outcomes that can arise from the intersection of professional expertise and personal failings. Her case captivated the nation and served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of combining knowledge with malevolent intent. After being convicted of first-degree murder in February 2003, Kristen Rossum began serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Her conviction was a somber conclusion to a case that had captivated public attention and showcased the dark side of professional expertise abused for personal gain. Kristen's life in prison was marked by appeals and continued proclamations of innocence. Despite her efforts to overturn the verdict, the legal system upheld her conviction. The appellate court's review of her case revealed errors made by her defense team, particularly their failure to contest the prosecution's claims thoroughly. Yet, these errors were deemed insufficient to overturn the jury's decision, and Kristen remained behind bars. Michael Robertson, Kristen's lover and former boss, faced scrutiny as the investigation continued. Though he was not charged with a crime, the authorities issued a sealed warrant for his arrest. Robertson, now residing in Australia as a forensic toxicology consultant, faced potential legal repercussions if he returned to the United States. The unresolved questions surrounding his involvement and the possible conspiracy to cover up Kristen's crime left a shadow over the case's resolution. The impact of Gregory DeVere's death extended beyond the criminal trial. His family, deeply affected by the loss, pursued a civil lawsuit against the San Diego County Medical Examiner's office. They argued that the institution's failure to detect Kristen's theft of controlled substances and her misuse of them contributed to Gregory's death. In 2006, the family won a substantial civil settlement, receiving $147 million in damages. This lawsuit highlighted serious systemic flaws and the need for rigorous checks and balances within forensic institutions to prevent such tragedies. The case became a landmark example of how negligence in professional settings can have catastrophic consequences. Broader impact and lessons learned. The Kristen Rossum case brought to light several critical issues that extend beyond the individual crime. 1. Professional ethics and access to controlled substances. Kristen's case illustrated the dangers of unchecked access to powerful drugs. Her role as a toxicologist gave her unique knowledge and access, which she exploited for nefarious purposes. The case emphasized the need for stricter controls and oversight within forensic and medical institutions to prevent abuse. 2. Legal and systemic reforms. The legal proceedings and civil lawsuit highlighted the importance of systemic reforms in forensic practices and legal accountability. The case prompted discussions about improving oversight, ensuring better safeguards against drug theft, and holding institutions accountable for lapses in security. 3. Personal failings and consequences. Kristen Rossum's story is a stark reminder of how personal failings, when combined with professional expertise, can lead to devastating outcomes. Her actions demonstrated how addiction and personal conflicts can drive individuals to commit heinous acts, despite their outwardly respectable positions. The legacy of the case. Kristen Rossum's case remains a powerful example of how a seemingly ordinary life can spiral into a tragedy of monumental proportions. It serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of combining professional knowledge with personal dysfunction and the far-reaching consequences of such actions. The story of Kristen Rossum, Gregory DeVere, and the ensuing legal battles underscores the need for vigilance in both personal and professional realms. It reminds us of the importance of ethical behavior, transparency, and accountability in all aspects of life. As we conclude this examination of the Kristen Rossum case, it is clear that the story is more than just a crime. It is a complex web of human behavior, institutional failures, and the quest for justice. The case continues to resonate as a sobering reflection on the potential for abuse of power and the enduring quest for truth and accountability. Thank you for following this detailed account of the Kristen Rossam case. The lessons learned from this tragic story will hopefully inspire continued reforms and vigilance to prevent similar occurrences in the future.